grab a yoga mat because we're going to do some stretches. Then you can. And we can also grab a cup of water. Thank you so much for coming to the first session of the Hidradenitis Suppurativa Awareness Week Virtual Summit. This is brought to you by not only My Gold Lining, but the HS Foundation, For Her Cosmetics, the Mama IU, and also HydraWear. Thank you so much to all our sponsors for donating to this vision. It means so much that you are supporting HS patients across the world. I want to introduce both of our panelists. I have here Julie Fernandez, who is not only a trauma coach, but also a yoga instructor. And then I also have Brent, who is here from the Hidradenitis Suppurativa Foundation, who is going to give a few words to kick us off on this wonderful, wonderful week.
Thanks, Jasmine. Welcome, everyone. It's happy, I guess, HS Awareness Week. Crazy world these days, obviously. Hopefully we can spread some hope and some good messages today and throughout the course of this week. For the foundation's sake, it's really a pleasure to partner with Jasmine and the rest of her team throughout this week. We really feel like HS is at the tipping point where it's becoming more and more known among just the general public, the providers, the researchers, and we're thrilled that that's optimistic for us. We really feel like over the course of the next couple of years, there's going to be some tremendous improvements in treatments, and hopefully we just start inching towards a cure one of these days. But it starts with things like this, spreading a good message around, trying to get that message out to family members, to patients, to people struggling with this disease, and give them the confidence and the determination to seek out someone that can help them. So I guess my hope for people this week is that they'll realize they're not suffering alone. My hope is that they'll find family members and friends to lean on. My hope is they'll find a provider that knows what they're dealing with and can give them treatments that will help them out. And my hope is that HS patients around the world will get more hope than maybe they had before this week started. So from the foundation standpoint, our vision is a world where no one has to suffer from HS. And there's a lot of diseases out there, a lot of them dermatological or otherwise, that are inconvenient, or they're uncomfortable, or they're mild. But you know, HS, as we know, is really rarely any of those things. People are really suffering from this disease. So our vision is a world where no one suffers from HS. So thank you all. Thank you, Julie, for leading the session today. And I look forward to jumping from a presenter to a participant to just sort of check in and see how things are going. But thank you for all the work you're doing this week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking on behalf of the Hidradenitis Suppurativa Foundation. We really appreciate you all for supporting this and for supporting the HS community and helping us to find just some comfort in our struggle. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you. So Julie, thank you so much for joining our session today, for presenting not only trauma, but also yoga. So we're gonna get into some heavy things today, but I'm so glad that we get to wind things down with some stretching and to get our bodies moving, because I know within this pandemic, I know at least for me, I've been sitting a lot, so I need to get my body up and moving. And what I love the most about this session today is that this is a yoga session that's specifically tailored for HS patients, because a lot of us have shorter ranges of motion or have a lot of pain throughout our bodies. So I'm really grateful for patients to get some practices that they can adopt in their everyday lives that don't put a strain on their body, but you know, it still helps to just kind of like exercise the body out. So I really appreciate it. And I want to hand it to you to kind of introduce yourself and tell people more about who you are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jasmine. I'm so happy to be here. So excited to be a part of this and be a part of the conversation, so more and more people understand it and we can get help for people. So thank you for having me. As you mentioned, I am a trauma coach. I help people work through their traumas and heal their body. So I should say I'm a somatic trauma therapy coach. And that just means I work with the body. I work to help people understand how trauma shows up in their bodies, and then we work to release that, to discharge that excess stuck energy in their body, which is what trauma is, and we can talk more about that later. And then I also, I started actually this work teaching yoga, and just like regular yoga, and then I started to understand more like what trauma is, and understanding that I actually had it, and then started tailoring the yoga practices to help support the healing of trauma. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And it really was because of how much yoga helped me in my life with everything that I was going through, the trauma. But part of that was struggling with HS, which I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just knew it was painful. And I think it was just like, it was harder to just like not know what is going on with me, and nobody can give me answers. So yoga was really the thing that helped me to get through it and manage my symptoms, for sure.
I do want to mention, before we get into that conversation further, people who are participants in this session, I do want to let you know that at the end, we're going to take 15 minutes to ask questions. So if you have any, please put them in the chat, or we have a Q&A section here, and you can use the Q&A feature to submit your questions so that you can, so that we can answer them at the end. So if anything comes up during the conversation and you want an answer to it, feel free to ask, because we're going to try to get to as many as possible today. So I want to start the conversation off by sort of helping people to understand what trauma is and how does that show up in our bodies.
It's a great question. And the thing about it is that there's so many different ways to talk about trauma and what it is. I simply say trauma is when something overwhelms our capacity to cope. But if it's okay, I actually do want to read a quote that I think is like, it just brings the humanness back to it. So I'll just start with reading that. And this is a quote by Stephen Cope in the foreword to a book called Overcoming Trauma Through Yoga. And it reads, "Human beings are tender creatures. We are born with our hearts open, and sometimes our open hearts encounter experiences that shatter us. Sometimes we encounter experiences that so violate our sense of safety, order, predictability, and right that we feel utterly overwhelmed, unable to integrate, and simply unable to go on as before, unable to bear reality. We have come to call these shattering experiences trauma. None of us is immune to them." And so I think that it's just important to, like, something to take from that is none of us is immune to it. And essentially it's our inability to integrate after the experience. So something too to also keep in mind is that trauma symptoms are not caused by the event itself, but rather it's what stays with us after the event. And so when I talk about healing trauma and work to heal trauma in my clients, it's essentially about completing what wasn't able to be completed at the time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, it does.
Yeah.
Because I know we have that fight or flight mode that shifts on in our bodies. So sometimes for us, I know for myself, for an example, when traumatic experiences happen, I don't necessarily process them right then and there. It's sort of something that later I marinate on, but in the moment I'm frozen and I am just thinking on how to protect myself so that nothing bad happens, you know?
I am so glad that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what it is. So when there's a threat, whether it's real or perceived, I want that to stay at the forefront. Like, that's the most important. It doesn't have to be a real threat for your body to experience it in that way. Like, our minds are that powerful. It's the same thing, like if you're like hiking and you see a stick and you think it's a snake, your body's going to react the same way, whether it's a snake or a stick, right? So whether it's a real or perceived threat, our bodies go into fight or flight mode. And what happens is our bodies prepare to take action. So our body is preparing, our muscles tone up, our heart rate speeds up. Everything, all of the energy in our body is working to complete that action, to run away or to fight back. And what happens though is that for many reasons, and this is where it gets complicated, we also have what's called the freeze response, which you mentioned. And that's actually what causes the trauma. When we're not able to complete the fight response or the fleeing response, our bodies freeze. So this is like fight or flight is when we hit the gas pedal in the car, and then the freeze happens when we also hit the brake at the same exact time. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever done that in the car, but like there's so much energy and there's nowhere to go. And that's what's happening in our body. There's so much moving inside and it's stuck, it's blocked, it's frozen. There's nowhere for it to go. So now that starts to cause a lot of issues internally. And this is where we start to have like anxiety and depression. We have difficulty sleeping. Then we have, other conditions, our skin condition, right? HS, like other inflammatory conditions, because that's what's happening. Our hormones are going haywire to try to get us to safety because there is a perceived threat. And so that all of those hormones just kind of going crazy in there just causes a lot of inflammation. And as most of us probably know, like that is what makes HS so awful. And that's what we want to control, is the inflammation in our body. So if we can get our bodies out of fight or flight, we can really help our bodies and start to work towards healing trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And you know what it brings to mind is I read a book. Unfortunately, I forget the author's name, but she wrote about sort of ailments in the body and what traumatic experiences go along with them. So, do you know about what issues that we deal with in our daily lives that might have caused trauma and possibly have caused like chronic skin conditions?
Everyone experiences trauma in such a different way, and it manifests for everybody so differently, I believe. But I do want to say, like, what in our day-to-day can cause trauma? Not having boundaries, when you want to say no and you can't. These are just like really simple things, like someone invites you to something, to a party, and you don't want to go, but you say yes, and then you go anyway, and then you feel all that tension. Or when you're like in public and you have like social anxiety, but you're pretending that everything's okay, so you're like trying to hold it all in. Like those kinds of experiences that we don't think about as traumatic, those are actually traumatic to our system. Mm-hmm. So really keeping that in mind. This is why like taking care of ourselves and really like tuning in and like paying attention to how we are actually feeling and then actually honoring that for ourselves is so important.
Yeah. And I feel like that's almost hard only because with HS patients, it's hard to be present in the body because of what's going on in the body. And it's like you almost want to escape it. So how would you say, or what practices have you used as an HS patient yourself to ground yourself back in your body so that you can process the trauma, and complete the cycle?
That's such a great question, because that is also a symptom of trauma. We call it dissociation or numbing out, right? When it's too painful to be in our bodies, so we kind of just check it out. We check out of it, and then we go on about our day. And so what I would suggest is, first of all, anything that we do, we have to like titrate. We just kind of ease our way in. We dip one toe in at a time, check if the water feels cool, and then we have permission to dive in deeper. We never want to just like dive right in. So what I would suggest is just try, when we do come into our body and we feel that discomfort, can we breathe with it? Or, in addition to where it's uncomfortable, can we also identify an area in our body or different areas where it feels more comfortable to pay attention to, or to be with, or to work to strengthen? We also, these are what we call resources. And so we have our internal resources, so using my breath or paying attention to an area of my body that feels really strong, or just is at ease. Or we have like our external resources, like finding something pleasant in the room, something to look at, something to hear, so nice music or nice scents. So it's really about finding resources that can help us stay in the present moment, no matter how uncomfortable. So a lot of the yoga practice is about learning how to be comfortable within the discomfort, because it's not about avoiding it. We actually have to stick with it, but do it in a way that feels manageable to us. And so what trauma-informed yoga teaches us is to go at our own pace and like find our limits and help ease ourselves in that or through that, never really forcing and never comparing your practice to somebody else's. Like, it really is an individual practice.
And I feel like breath is, like you were talking about, breath is a key component of yoga that really helps you to push through that discomfort. And I've even found myself using it in my everyday life. You know what I mean? Obviously we breathe, but like really deep breathing when something is really uncomfortable. Different. We just kind of like inhale and just take a deep breath, and that helps to kind of like recalibrate your system.
100%. So our breath is the doorway to the nervous system. So when we talk about regulating our nervous system to get out of that fight or flight state, what I think first and foremost that we should be paying attention to is our breath. And so I want to offer something to everybody now, like besides our like movement practice. So there's so many elements to yoga. We call them the limbs of the yoga practice, the 8 limbs of yoga. And asana, or like the movement, the yoga postures, is not the first thing to pay attention to. So before we get into any of the physical postures, I want to offer, like, most importantly is our breath. And something to keep in mind is, and I hope I don't confuse anybody, but when we inhale, our heart rate rises, it activates our sympathetic, our fight or flight system. When we exhale, our heart rate falls, it decreases, and it activates our parasympathetic nervous system. So it gets us out of fight or flight. So whenever we're feeling stressed or anxious and we're feeling activated in that way, the most important thing to focus on is our exhalation. So whenever we're uncomfortable or we notice pain in our body, I want to offer for everyone to focus more on your exhalation and make sure that your exhale is full and also longer than your inhale. This is going to help to calm your nervous system down so that it stops perceiving the pain as a threat, because that's only going to increase the pain. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I want to talk about too, how does trauma play a role in the lives of specifically HS patients? Because obviously we are worried about continuously through month to month getting another boil, you know what I mean, on top of another boil, and just like the seepage that happens and the open wounds and feeling like we are attractive or feeling like we are just not battling and fighting ourselves every single day. So how have you seen it in your own life come up as an HS patient?
The trauma.
Yeah.
So for me specifically, and so many people, and you probably have experience of it, like when we hold tension in our body, when we're just like tight and tense all the time, that's trauma.
Yeah.
That's trauma. When we're experiencing or going through life like that, again, like I said, our bodies are preparing to take action. And so we're in our fight or flight system, which means that all of our hormones are like going to the right places so that we can survive the experience. Does that make sense? So it is the hormones that's causing this excess, this inflammation in our body, and that is what's showing up as HS. Right? I mean, and this happens with any condition. I mean, fibromyalgia is the same thing. My acne, like I have hormonal acne. So when I'm stressed, like that's what happens. And with HS, like the more stressed I was in my life, the more flare-ups, the more like boils that I had. And when I learned to manage my stress, my HS went into remission. And then when I notice, like I start to feel it come on, and I have to check myself. Whoa, you're stressed, Julie. You need to calm down. And so then I go and do my like practices, or I'm just more mindful about what I'm doing in my day to day. But again, it's the hormones that are I mean, and the thing to understand is we can't get mad at our body. This is what our body was designed to do. Our body was designed to protect us. So our body, what we need to understand is that our body is sensing a threat, an external threat outside of us. And actually at this point, like for me, HS became a threat. So when I started to feel an outbreak, a flare up, I started going into fight or flight mode. And then that just like created the cycle, like it just kept it going. So I had to learn how to be with my HS differently, which meant how can I remain calm under this, you know, under this amount of stress right now. And then that helped my body to perceive it differently. So it was no longer a threat. So what we want to do in our lives is to manage how we see the threat and understand that our body's only trying to do what it was designed to do, and that's to keep us safe, to protect us. So what we want to do, and what our yoga practice helps us with, is to help the body feel safe once again. And to just calm the nervous system. So it teaches that whatever external thing is going on is not actually a threat, because if it was a threat, I wouldn't be able to breathe so slowly and calmly. I wouldn't be able to move my body with such ease or be mindful in this moment. And so by just doing those kinds of practices, we're already sending the message to our nervous system that we are safe enough and we don't need to be in fight or flight in this moment. And so it is about that. It's a moment-to-moment practice. It's a day-to-day practice. I'm saying a lot of words, so.
No, it's perfect. This is all really great information. I know for myself, I know a little bit about this only because I do yoga, but you're informing me of so many different things, especially when it deals with like trauma in the nervous system and how we can just kind of let go of that trauma. So that's very, very informative. And then I kind of want to get into us talking about how, what poses can help to alleviate trauma for HS patients as far as like yoga is concerned.
So what I want to offer, because it's not necessarily a prescriptive kind of practice, it's really individualized. So it's about checking in with ourselves and noticing where we're holding excess energy or tension in our body. And then our work is, how can I release that from my body? How can I soften that just a little bit more? So we can think about this as retraining our body to get out of fight or flight and to live in our parasympathetic nervous system response, which is our rest and digest. We kind of want to live there more often, even though it does get a little bit more complicated because we use both throughout the day all the time. And this is as simple as, I'll say it really quickly, like, you know, I have the urge to pee. My sympathetic nervous system kicks on, fight or flight, and then I go and I pee, and then parasympathetic comes back online. When I feel hunger sensations, fight or flight kicks in because it's survival, and then I eat and parasympathetic comes back online. We are designed to go through this flow. And so that's what stress is, right? There's a deadline I have to meet, oh my God, and then I do the thing, and then I meet the deadline, and now I come back out of it. And then, oh my God, I have to get to this appointment, there's traffic, and then I arrive, and it's like, oh, I made it. So we're constantly in this up and down. What causes trauma is when we don't get back, we don't come back down. We just stay in it. So, I mean, I know, for example, like I used to hold my pee all the time and I wouldn't eat. So my body is sending me all these signals of like things that it needed, and I wasn't paying attention to it. So it's constantly fighting me and screaming at me to like help it. And so this is about helping ourselves and really listening to those signals and meeting our needs. So it's not, sorry, not to answer, I didn't answer the question about like what specific yoga poses, because I think it's so individualized. So if you're a person that holds a lot of tension in your neck and your shoulders, then these like shoulder stretches or exercises is going to be what's most beneficial for you. If you're a person that holds a lot of tension in your hips, like I do, then stretches for your hips and your legs and your lower back are what's going to be best for you.
Absolutely. And what I kind of hear you saying also is sort of that a good way to, well, at least I think that a good way to do that too is just kind of like being present in the body. So like sitting
Yes.
and just figuring out where that tension lies. And you can kind of notice when you like either move your body. I know that for me, my hips, like anytime I move, I feel it in my hips. So that's where my tension lies. And that's where I focus when I do yoga. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. You said it so beautifully. It is about like being with yourself, your body, and noticing all of those sensations. And what's going to help you stay with those sensations? Your breath, right? If I keep my breath calm, if I keep my nervous system calm, then these new sensations that might not be so pleasant, because it's not going to be pleasant. If we're so used to avoiding sensations in our body, when we feel any sensation, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's all going to be uncomfortable. And so the key is, how can I stay with it? So let's keep our breath calm. Let's keep our nervous system calm so that we can teach it that we actually want to do this. We want to be here and pay attention to our body. And we're doing a good thing by helping our body ease itself and release some of that stuck tension that's in there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. With that being said, I want to transition into the next part of the session, which is yoga. And so if we were saying at the beginning, all of our attendees, that if you want to grab your yoga mat or find a space that is comfortable for you so that you can kind of do some of the practices, or you can even, I'm sure you could probably do it in your chair too. Mm-hmm. So if a chair is comfortable for you, then please feel free, grab some water so you can stay hydrated throughout the whole process, and we'll get started. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll get into the practice.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that you want to prep them with too, Julie, you can. Because this is your session now.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, you already said it. So just grab whatever you feel like you might need. We'll just do a 15-minute movement practice. And I hope everybody's listening to me, because I'm just going to give my spiel that I normally give. This is your yoga practice. So this is about like tuning into your body, noticing those sensations, and making choices based on those sensations. So I'm simply here to offer you these practices, these different postures, these different movements, and it's up to you to make the best choice for you and your body. If something doesn't feel good, don't do it. If your body wants to do something completely different, then I invite you to do that. But also, if something feels really good and you want to stay there longer, you're welcome to do that. If you want to go a little bit deeper into the yoga posture, you can do that as well. So it really is individualized, and this is about learning how to listen and then make choices. So kind of like managing the limitations and adjusting your yoga practice, your movement for that, rather than just simply saying this isn't for me, because yoga is for everybody, movement is for everybody, whatever that looks like. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, we'll start in a comfortable seated posture, whatever that looks like for you. So take your time to get there. I'm sitting on my heels right now. You're welcome to sit cross-legged if that's comfortable. If you're in a chair, that's fine too. You can extend your legs out. There is no right or wrong. And so we'll start our practice with a little bit of centering, a little bit of mindfulness before we add some movement to it. And notice if you prefer your eyes opened or closed. Again, there is no right or wrong. And I invite you to find your breath. No need to change anything about your breath just yet. We're just noticing. Perhaps you notice where in your body you're feeling your breath. Maybe you notice the rise and fall of your belly. Perhaps you notice the rise and fall of your chest. Or maybe the airs and moves in through your nostrils and back out. Or maybe you notice your breath somewhere else. I invite you to just bring your attention there. And we'll take about 3 conscious breaths. If you're interested in exploring the breath a little bit further, maybe you can think about deepening the breath a little bit, but just think about adding a little more breath to your inhales and adding a little more breath to your exhales. We'll do 2 more, just like that. Last one. And then if you're interested, we can start to add a little bit of movement. As I mentioned, we do hold a lot of tension in our neck and our shoulders. So I'll invite you to move in a way that feels best for you. You're welcome to drop one ear down to your shoulder and then the other. Or you can make circles with your shoulders, or you can do both. So really, it's about checking in with your body, noticing those sensations and seeing what feels best, finding what feels best. So you might notice you'll try something, maybe that doesn't feel so good, so you'll try something else. Perfect. And as you're moving in whatever way feels best for you, I invite you to check in with your breath again. Sometimes what's really common is we tend to hold our breath. And so I invite you to check in with your breath often so that we can get out of that habit of holding our breath. And then just bringing awareness to our breath gets our breath moving once again. And we'll just take 2 more breaths here. We're using the breath as a measure of time for this. Perfect. And then when you're ready, come back to stillness. And we'll take just a moment to check in, see if you can notice anything that might have shifted. Maybe you notice sensations or lack of sensation, or maybe you don't notice anything at all, and that's okay too. And then if you're ready and you'd like to join me, we'll start with some stretches for our shoulders and our back. We're gonna raise our arms up. We call this cactus arms. We're keeping the elbows bent here. And find your breath. Notice if you're breathing into your belly and also your chest. See if that's available to you. And we're gonna start to move with our breath. So on our inhale, we're gonna reach our hands back behind us. Nice, lifting even more through our chest and our shoulders. And then on our exhale, we're gonna bring our hands back down and then to our waist, and see if you can bring your elbows forward. You can even start to round the back here. You can drop your chin down towards your chest for a deeper stretch. See if that feels good, if that's available to you. And we'll hold this stretch for 1 full breath. And then we're gonna move together with the breath. So when you're ready on your next inhale, we're gonna lift our head up, open our elbows back out, our arms reach back behind us, keeping our chest and our heart lifted and open. And on the exhale, we'll close it back up, bringing our hands to our waist, our elbows forward, rounding through the spine. Nice. And continue to move with your breath at your own pace as you inhale, open up, and exhale, close it back up. We'll do 3 more at your own pace, moving with your breath. Nice, 2 more. And last one. Perfect. And shaking it out, coming back to stillness whenever you're ready, taking a moment to check in and notice if your body's needing or wanting any kind of adjustment or any other stretch. And from here, we're going to move to our hands and knees, if that's okay. If you need cushioning underneath the knees, then feel free to add some. You can also roll your mat over for just a little bit of extra padding here. So we're here on our hands and knees. I invite you to check in with your hands. We're planting our hands firmly into the mat, distributing your weight evenly between all four corners of your palms and spreading your fingers nice and wide. And find your breath here. We're gonna move through what we call cat-cow here. As we inhale, we'll look up, lifting through the chest and the heart, dropping our belly button down towards the ground, and our tailbone lifts up towards the sky. And on the exhale, we're gonna look down, round through the spine, dropping our chin down towards our chest. Nice, you can continue this movement with your breath at your own pace as you inhale, looking up, and exhale, looking down. Nice, we'll do 5 more here, moving with your breath at your own pace. I invite you to check in with your body, noticing those sensations. And if you're interested in incorporating some kind of creative movement here, you're welcome to do so. And that might mean some movement in your side body or your neck or your shoulders, whatever that looks like for you. I invite you to honor your body in whatever way it needs. Nice. Take about 2 more breaths here. And when you're ready, I invite you to come back to center and find stillness here. From here, we're gonna curl our toes under, lift our knees up and send our hips up and back to find our downward facing dog. We're just getting into this, so I invite you to bend one knee deeply so you can straighten the opposite, and then you can alternate like this. So we're gently stretching our legs, preparing our legs for this opening, this huge stretch in our back body. And find your breath. We'll take about 3 more breaths here in our downward facing dog. You're welcome to stay in the movement, making this pose dynamic, or you can find stillness in downward facing dog, find whatever feels best. And then whenever you're ready, we'll slowly start to walk our feet forward to meet our hands. So we'll find ourselves in a forward fold and bend your knees a lot. So you can support your lower back and maybe even your chest rests on your thighs. We'll let our head hang heavy here. This is a great opportunity to check in with our neck and our shoulders and our arms to notice if we're holding any excess tension there. See if you can soften it. We'll take 2 more breaths here. This is what we call our ragdoll form. Last one. Beautiful. And when you're ready, very slowly, we're supposed to roll up to standing, 1 vertebrae at a time, having our head be the very last thing to come up, and rolling the shoulders down and back. And find your breath. I invite you to notice your feet making contact with the ground, feeling your weight supported here. You're welcome to shift the weight side to side or forward and back just to get a sense of your body supported by the ground beneath you. You're welcome to look down at your feet as well. And just notice again that connection with the ground, with the mat. We'll take 1 more breath here. And on your next inhale, I invite you to sweep your arms up towards the sky, reach up as high as you can. And exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees as much as you need. On your next inhale, come up halfway, long spine, shoulders back. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees as much as you need. On your next inhale, we're gonna come up all the way to standing. Reach your arms up towards the sky. And exhale, release your arms down. Pause for just a moment. Check in with your breath. Check in with your body. Just noticing any sensations there. Maybe you notice if something shifted. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. We'll take 1 more breath here. And we'll do that again and transition down to the yoga mat. On our next inhale, let's reach our arms up towards the sky. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees as much as you need. Inhale, come up halfway, long spine, shoulders back. Exhale, fold forward, bend your knees a lot so you can plant your hands down onto the mat and come down to hands and knees. And we're gonna end in what we call our child's pose. So we're gonna sit back into our heels. There are many options for child's pose. You're welcome to keep your knees together, or you can widen your knees a little bit more so you can easily get your chest down closer towards the mat. You're welcome to keep your arms extended out in front of you, or you can bring your arms back behind you. If your head is wanting a little bit more support, you're welcome to stack your fist and let your forehead rest on your hands as well. And we'll take this moment as we cool down, as we wind down, to just check in with your breath. Notice the rhythm of your inhales and your exhales. And I invite you to notice your body. Check in with your body and any sensations there. We're not labeling them as good or bad. We're just noticing. And as you're aware of your body and any sensations that may be present for you, I invite you to bring the attention back to your breath. And we're going to take 3 conscious breaths here. Beautiful. And when you're ready, I invite you to slowly make your way back up. Find a comfortable seat, could be the same one that you started with in the beginning, or maybe you find another one that feels best. And we'll take this last moment to center and to ground back down. I invite you to check in with your body, noticing any sensations, again, wherever they may be or whatever they may be. We're not judging them as good or bad. We're just noticing. And check in with your breath. And maybe notice if anything feels any different than when we first started, whether it's with your body or with your breath or with your thoughts or whatever it might be. And if you're interested in joining me, we'll end our practice with 3 mindful breaths. We're going to take a nice deep inhale through our nose and exhale out of our mouth. If you're interested in joining me, we'll take a nice deep inhale now. And exhale out of your mouth. Twice more. And last one. And we'll take our hands to our heart center, dropping our chin down towards our chest as we bow to our inner teachers, our hearts and our bodies. And with love and gratitude, sending peace. In yoga, we say namaste, which means the light in me sees, honors, respects, loves, adores the light in you. Namaste. So just a short practice to just get back into our bodies and see if we can have a different experience in our body.
That was great, Julie. Thank you so much. I really hope that attendees got so much out of this conversation today. I know that I feel a lot better than I did when I came onto the mat. So I'm super, super grateful for you just guiding us through this, because it means a lot. It does, for us to have alternative ways to heal, not only our bodies, because that sometimes is all we're focused on, but our minds and our souls, because all of it is synonymous. So I really appreciate that. I want to get into answering some of the questions, because we do have a few questions here. We do have a question. Is it possible to hold tension? Is it possible holding tension is a mental thing?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. I was just reading the comment. 100%. Our thoughts are so powerful. Again, it's like, or our minds are so powerful. It's like if I'm hiking on a trail and I see a stick and I convince myself that it's a snake, my nervous system is going to respond the same way, whether it's a stick or a snake. So if we're holding tension, we can also check in with our minds and focus on where there is no tension, or tell ourselves that is not tension, right? If it's not real. So, I mean, that's the thing about our mind. It's so powerful. We have the ability to change it. And I know I'm saying that like it's so simple. It's not. I get it. But it's something that we can start to practice and work on every day. So if you find that like the holding tension might not necessarily be such a physical thing for you and it's more mental, then I invite you to start thinking of other things to like bring to your mind that might be the opposite of it, or to help convince yourself that it's not real.
Absolutely. We had another question from, they were wondering, so like I know that for me as an HS patient, I tend to wear clothing that is more stretch and more just like not constricting, because like jeans and things like that, feels like you can't really breathe in those. So someone was asking, what do you wear when you do yoga?
I wear my stretchy pants for sure. I find that there's sometimes when I wear pants that are more loose, they rub more. So I actually need something that's closer to my skin. And Band-Aids were like saving grace for so long. So I think it is just about finding what works for you. I think, you know, when we talk about like trauma and HS and also like yoga, we need to remember that it's such an individualized thing. What's going to work for one person is not going to work for everybody. So it's about finding what works best for you personally. And it's trial and error for sure. So I say try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try to change it up a little bit. See what you can change or add to it that might work better for you.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I feel like we're taught to learn, because from when we get into school to when we get into the workplace, we kind of treat everyone the same, in the sense of we teach everybody the same way, we have everybody work in the same way, and it's sort of like everything is very individualistic, and people sometimes feel defeated when they don't present or do practices like others. And it's really your freedom to do what works for you and what's comfortable for you.
For sure.
We program our minds into just understanding that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not even just freedom, but like, what if like you can touch your toes and I can't touch my toes because my body's just not ready? Like, you can't expect me to touch my toes if my body's not ready to touch my toes. And that's what's not fair, is that like a lot of like, and I'm going to talk about yoga teachers and like the like studio culture that's out there. It's like they expect everyone's practice to look a certain way, and like that's not yoga, that's your ego. I'm sorry, I'm getting into like a whole other thing, but that's not beneficial to anyone except the yoga teacher, because the yoga teacher wants to see everybody look good because it makes her or them look good. And this isn't about me. I'm here to be of service and help you find what's going to work best for you. So I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to ask you, how does it feel for you? Because if it feels good, then I want you to, like, that's what's best. Like, you need to do more of that. And if it doesn't feel good, then please stop doing that. It has nothing to do with me at this point.
Because you can injure yourself doing yoga. Really,
100%. Yeah, with anything. If you're not listening, if you're not actually paying attention to what's going on in your body, and you're just looking at that person, well, that person can lift 200 pounds, so I should be able to lift 200 pounds. Well, what if I'm not ready yet? I could barely lift 5 pounds. How are you going to expect me to lift 200 pounds?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Someone was mentioning, did you mention a book earlier? they were wondering.
Oh, the quote that I read the book, or the quote that I got from the book, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This book is called, I don't think I have it here. No, I don't. It's called Overcoming Trauma Through Yoga, Reclaiming Your Body.
Okay.
No, that's not the one I have here. There's so many great books on yoga, on trauma. Peter Levine is the founder, the creator of somatic experiencing, and he has written so many wonderful books. The one I recommend is called Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. That's a great one. Another one that's like kind of, it's really dense. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, but like it's dense. But it has a lot of really good information here. So if somebody's like ready and like to dive in, this is a really great resource as well.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind putting it in the comments for people just in case they might not that? And then I guess we'll get into, we have 2 more questions.
Sure.
Recommending a YouTube channel that has trauma-friendly yoga or stretches. I know that for me, I look at a woman named Adrienne, Yoga by Adrienne. She's a very popular yoga instructor online, and I've found that just her style of teaching is very friendly to those who deal with trauma, and she has yoga practice specifically for that. Her voice is
great.
And I just love her practices, but I know, Julie, you wanted to mention something as well.
For yoga on YouTube, I'm actually like not sure. So I work with a nonprofit called Exhale to Inhale, and we have yoga that we offer digitally now with everything that's going on. So that is a resource. There's also like really wonderful, I just don't know if they have them accessible like that. Like Hala Corey teaches really great, she has like really great yoga practices. I don't know if they're like on YouTube is the thing. I'll have to think about it. I didn't come prepared for that question. I'm sorry.
No, so another question is, how do you deal with family that doesn't respect your body limitations, especially when they don't understand or recognize HS? They blame everything on that person's weight.
On the weight?
Yeah.
This is a good question. I mean, this is about stating boundaries, but it's about like enforcing boundaries, but it's hard to enforce boundaries if we don't feel comfortable with ourselves. If we're still fighting ourselves, if we have that internal battle and we're not understanding why our bodies are responding the way that it is, then there's no way we can really convey that to someone outside of us. So I would say, get comfortable with yourself and feel like you have that managed and under control, and you feel comfortable enough in your body that when somebody asks you something, you can say like, hey, this is me, this is who I am, like, you know, as it relates to it, and like, that's it. Like, you're not letting them come into your sphere of safety and love and kindness. So it really is about boundaries, but it's so hard to enforce a boundary if we don't feel confident and safe and comfortable in our own body. I hope that was helpful.
It is. And I do want to mention too that although some people think that weight is directly affected with HS, there have been studies that have said that HS is not caused by being overweight. So I think that presenting facts with family really helps. I know it helps when I speak to individuals because you know, we want to talk about what's true, and we don't want to put more pressure on our bodies than is already there. Some people experience improvements in their HS from losing weight, and some individuals don't experience any changes whatsoever. Everything is very individualistic. So if anyone is telling you that there's one way to treat HS, I would not necessarily listen to everything that they have to say, because that's not true. You have to find what is good for you. And if you can, try to just try to educate your family as much as possible. And I know that can be exhausting, and I know that it can be very emotionally draining, but maybe you have a few facts that you can just kind of like go off when people make comments on things that make you comfortable, because asserting your boundaries with facts, I feel like really help to put them in place, rather than someone thinking that you're too sensitive or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. And then something too that like that just came to mind too, is like, be careful when you're when that's coming up for you and you're feeling like the need to have to like educate somebody or like enforce that boundary. Like, are you stressed while doing that? And how can you remain as calm as possible while doing that? Because the more stressful you make that situation, the more our body's going to be processing that. And then, you know, it's the cycle. Yeah. So just try your best to like stay calm and like find your truth and find your comfort and feel that sense of safety. And then it'll be easier to enforce that boundary and educate them in whatever way feels appropriate in that moment, but not stressing yourself out over it.
Absolutely. Because that's things like that can make us feel as if there's something wrong with us. And I want to hear that HS is just it's a reaction to something going on in the body. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, as if you're disgusting or you're not worthy or anything. Those things are not tied to your worth at all as an individual. It's something that's happening to your body, and it's not anything that you can control right now. So it's important to work through just being comfortable with your body and talking to people about it, because the more we speak on it, the more we can free ourselves and kind of complete that cycle of trauma.
100%. Yes, that's exactly what it is. We're giving HS less power over us. So we're able to like talk about it and educate people on it. Again, it's like, how can you stay calm in that? And like, it's like, it's just about like not giving your power away, like not letting it take away your sense of safety or peace of mind. So the more you do it, the more you practice, the more comfortable you will get with it.
Absolutely.
So thank you for saying that.
We have one more question before we wrap up. How long did it take for you to feel comfortable with breathing through the pain?
For me, that was the first thing that I focused on. I remember my first yoga class, first of all, it was awful physically. I hated it. It was awful, but I didn't know, like, I was confused because everybody in the room was loving it. So I thought something was wrong with me. But of course I kept it to myself. But when I was on my way home, I realized, like, I mean, I do feel different. I feel great. And I realized that it was my breath. And so then I started to get curious about my breath. And when I noticed that something was uncomfortable or painful, I would breathe through it. And I just kept getting curious about how can I use my breath to like support myself through this, even though I didn't have the language for it and I didn't understand what the breath was doing. It just gave me something else to focus on rather than the pain or the discomfort. And it was like, it's like getting a new toy. I was fascinated by this thing that I just discovered. I just discovered my breath. And so I was like, ooh, what would happen if I like breathe in this way and then breathe out this way? Or like, what if I do this? And so I just started playing with it. And that really helped me. Like, I was lucky that it was like an easy kind of transition. But what I invite you to do is like start small. Like when you feel discomfort or pain, try taking 3 deep breaths in that moment. And if you don't get to 3 and you got to 1, then 1 is your goal. And so the next time you feel pain, try 1. And if you can possibly do like 1.5, try that. So like each time you want to keep doing more and more. This is what we call widening our window of tolerance, where we can stay with discomfort or pain longer, and then it just doesn't affect us as much or at all over time.
Absolutely. This was beautiful. This was such a wonderful, informative session. I'm so glad that we got to move our bodies and get educated on yoga and trauma and its relation to our bodies. I really appreciate you coming on to speak with us and just sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have been able to do this with you all. So thank you.
Thank you all, our attendees. We really appreciate you taking the time to tune into our sessions. Remember, we have a session tomorrow, and the session tomorrow is with Dr. Erin Martinez, who is going to be talking about mental health in HS, and we're going to specifically explore topics related to sex and just platonic relationships, and just dealing with mental health, depression, and anxiety as well. So please tune into that session, because I feel like you'll get a lot from that, just like you got a lot from today. And if you haven't entered into our giveaway, please enter into our giveaway. And then also, we have a donation button that is on the Eventbrite page if you would like to donate today. It's not a requirement, but if you want to continue to see programming like this in the future, we would love your support if you can through any donations that you have. I really appreciate you all. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Julie, for this amazing session.